Greetings, fellow insomniacs, it's your friend and fright, good old Chunky Larry, and I've been spending a lot of time on everybody's favorite app to consume horror. I'm talking, of course, about Tubi, just going at the throwbacks, looking at old horror films from the 1980s, and I've come to a realization that the 80s weren't as cool as we made them out to be. This time around, I ended up watching the 1988 film Edge of the Axe, and I got all kinds of feelings, and we're going to get through them together in this episode of Creature Features. Edge of the Axe is the 1998 film directed by Jose Ramon Larraz, about a small town that's gripped in the wake of a crazed killer using an axe to undo his intended victims. Edge of the Axe is produced by Calepes International, which is a Spanish production company operating out of Miami, who shot a good portion of the film in Big Bear, California, but also shot some of the interiors, a good brunt of the interiors in Madrid. But it has this very small town feel, and it's almost as if it's going for giallo, but I'm just gonna say it. Spanish people don't make giallos. They try their damnedest. I'm looking at you pieces, but there's just something lost in translation. The film is directed by renowned Spanish director Jose Ramon Larraz, and he's known for films like Vampires and Whirlpool, and he cites this as being his worst film, and I can't disagree. I feel like they had wanted this to be a giallo, but the explanations and the reasoning and the logic and everything about it is so wafer thin that it's better suited as being a slasher film instead of being a giallo, which the slasher film is a dumbed down version of the giallo. In most situations, it's lots of POVs, lots of, hands, but like gloved hands, and it feels lazy, and the performances, like scene by scene, aren't informing the performances as the film goes on. For example, there's a scene where Garrett and I think it's Richard, they discover a woman whose rotting corpse kind of falls out at them, and then they're almost immediately, like in the next scene, they're just like, yeah, let's go get some fucking chicks. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I personally, I feel like if I see some shit like that, last thing I'm thinking about is scoring. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe I'm like just a prude, but it's so fucking wackadoo that there's this like light switch flip where they don't even fucking pretend to care, and that's infuriating. They touch on various elements to kind of like lead, well, maybe it's going to go this way, maybe it's going to go that way, but it never actually goes anywhere. And they make the character Garrett just so obviously the killer that as I'm watching the film, I'm just saying to myself, if this dude is the fucking killer, I'm going to be pissed that I just spent all this time fucking investing in watching this movie. The twist that they take, the way that they twist what they set up is so fucking stupid. It's so ass backwards, and it it all culminates with this final moment that it's just so disappointing, and I feel dumb for sitting through it, and it's just not good. And I think that I'm guilty of this as much as anybody else, in talking up how great the 80s were. But this is just a perfect example of how there was a lot of dog shit that was sprinkled in amidst these really solid horror films from the 80s. Overall, if I'm going to rate this, which that's part of what I do, I give this a Reaper, I'm going to come in with 2 out of 5 Reapers. I felt like the violence was clumsy. They're using an axe as their weapon of choice for murders, and this is in 1988. This is long after things like Maniac and Pieces and The Prowler and My Bloody Valentine, all of these really effectively violent films, and this just has none of that. It just fucking sinks like a stone. But it is kind of endearing to see technology at that point when they're like, oh, you can communicate with each other on these computers. It's very high tech for its time, but ages like a fucking cup of milk out in the sun. But that's gonna do it for us. I am gonna try to do more of these. If there's something that you want me to review, by all means, in the comments, let me know, and I will get around to it. I prefer to review films on Tubi just because it's free and I don't have to do any extra steps. I'm already there. So let me know something you want to hear me weigh in on, and I'm gonna get on this dusty trail. I'm gonna get on my motorcycle and just ride. But for everybody involved in this dog shit and for myself, again, my name is Chunky. This has been another episode of the Creature Features. Listen with someone you trust.